A 4-year-old's life cut tragically short. Tonight, loved ones gather to say goodbye, how they are remembering her. That is where we begin tonight on the News at 10. I'm Russ Spencer. Loved ones held a vigil for a 4-year-old girl who was stabbed to death in southwest Atlanta.
I'm appreciative that everyone came to show up for my daughter. I think that she would be very happy. This is not a good situation, but she'll be very happy with the outcome that everyone came out to support her. It's hard just to wake up when you don't even feel like waking up. It's hard.
She just wanted a hug. That's it. 4 years old, arms stretched out, not taking no for an answer. The kind of little girl who would look you dead in your face and say, "Give me a hug. I want a hug." And you just could not tell her no. You could not. Because she had that kind of love in her. The kind that wraps around you and stays there. And now her mama has to figure out how to wake up every single morning knowing those little arms are never coming back. This story right here, this one is going to stay with you. In every home, behind every closed door, there's a story waiting to be uncovered. Welcome to Dark Whispers, where we dive deep into the hidden truths of domestic crime and the relationships that turn deadly. If you're drawn to real stories, powerful insights, and the shadows most people avoid, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and step into the whispers they never wanted you to hear. Southwest Atlanta, the 1900 block of Allison Court, a neighborhood where people know each other, where families share walls and sidewalks, and sometimes secrets. An apartment complex that, on any given day, would look like nothing more than ordinary life happening. Kids playing, neighbors passing, the regular rhythm of a community going about its business. Zuri Dixon lived inside that rhythm, 4 years old, full of personality, full of life. Her mother, Jori Ralph, describes her the way only a mama can describe her firstborn, with that mix of pride and tenderness that makes you feel the love right through the words. She said Zuri was bright. She said Zuri had a sense of humor. And more than anything, Zuri was the kind of child who led with love. Every single time. 4 years old, and already had her whole personality figured out. Already knew exactly how to get what she wanted. And what she wanted more than anything was to be close to the people she loved. Jori was her mother. Rashad Dixon, 34 years old, was her father. And in the way that so many of these stories go, the very person who was supposed to protect that little girl is the same person at the center of what happened next. Now, the details of what led up to that Saturday are not fully spelled out in what police have released. But what we do know is this. A domestic dispute broke out inside one of the units at that apartment complex on Allison Court. An argument. The kind that, make it make sense, somehow ended with a 4-year-old child in the middle of it. Neighbors heard something. In a building like that, walls are thin and sounds carry, and Zuri's screams were heard. People heard that little girl. But by the time anyone could do anything, it was already too late to save her. That is the part that is hard to sit with. The idea that help was close enough to hear her, and still could not get to her in time. There are no easy words for that. When officers arrived at that apartment, they found Rashad Dixon holding his daughter. Zuri was in his arms. She had been stabbed. She had suffered serious injuries. The kind of injuries that no 4-year-old body is built to survive. She was a baby. She was somebody's baby. Emergency responders were there. But Zuri did not make it. She died a short time later from her injuries. And just like that, a little girl who just wanted hugs, who could not be told no, was gone. Rashad Dixon did not flee. He did not run. Police found him right there, holding her. And whatever was going through his mind in that moment, whatever version of events he may have had, the result was the same. His daughter was dead, and his hands were the reason. Police moved fast. There was no mystery about who did this. Rashad Dixon was right there at the scene when officers arrived. He was not hiding. He was not gone. He was standing there with his daughter's blood on whatever story he thought he had to tell. Investigators took him in. They began piecing together what happened inside that apartment. The argument, the escalation, the moment it crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. The exact details of how the stabbing unfolded, the specific back and forth of that dispute. Those things were not released publicly. And honestly, for a case involving a child this young, there are some details that feel less important than the outcome itself. Because the outcome tells you everything you need to know. A 4-year-old girl went to be with her father and did not come home. Period. What investigators did confirm is that this was a domestic situation, an argument inside a home, and a child, who had nothing to do with whatever that argument was about, paid the price for it with her life. Zuri was not the cause of the dispute. She was not the reason those two adults were in conflict. She was just there, a little girl, in the wrong place, with the wrong person, at the worst possible moment. Anyways, the case moved to the next phase quickly, because the evidence was not complicated. The suspect was present. The victim was identified. And the story, as painful as it was not one that required months of detective work to untangle. Rashad Dixon was arrested and charged with murder, aggravated assault, and cruelty to children. 3 charges, each one heavy on its own. Together, they paint a picture of what the state of Georgia believed happened inside that apartment on Allison Court. He was booked into the Fulton County Jail. No bail information was released publicly at the time. No statements from his side of things made it into the coverage. Just the charges, the jail, and the silence that comes after something this awful settles into the public record. Oh, so now the man who was found holding his own dying daughter is sitting in a cell. Make it make sense. The courtroom portion of this story was still unfolding at the time this coverage came out. So there is no verdict to report, no sentencing, no final chapter in the legal sense. But the charges themselves speak loudly enough. Murder, aggravated assault, cruelty to children. The state of Georgia looked at what happened to Zuri and said, "This was not an accident. This was not a tragedy that nobody caused. Someone caused this, and they named him."
That's right, Ross. Little Zuri Dixon died after she was stabbed. Police say it happened during an argument. Tonight, Zuri's mom says she hopes her story can help at least one person.
We lift up this precious family.
They said a prayer.
I need to pick it up.
Lit candles.
Rest in peace, baby.
And released balloons, all during a vigil for little Zuri Dixon, a 4-year-old girl whose life was snuffed out far too soon.
It's hard just to wake up when you don't even feel like waking up.
This past Saturday, Zuri was stabbed at this apartment complex on the 1900 block of Allison Court in southwest Atlanta. Police say a domestic dispute broke out in one of the units. Investigators say they found a man holding the little girl. She suffered serious injuries. She died a short time later.
I don't have any words. I still don't have any words.
Police arrested Rashad Dixon. They have not released the exact details of how it happened or his relation to Zuri, but family members say she was his daughter.
This situation needs to be addressed, and maybe our story needs to be heard.
Jori Ralph is Zuri's mom. She says these past several days have been tough.
It's a day-by-day task when your firstborn, your only daughter is not with you, somebody that you see every single day is not with you. That ain't no easy task to conquer.
Ralph says her daughter was bright.
My girl was destined to be great.
She had a sense of humor, but most of all, Zuri was loving.
You can tell her no, but at the end of the day, she's gonna be like, give me a hug. I want the hug. And then you just can't tell her no.
That same week, the community showed up for Zuri the way communities do when a child is taken too soon. with candles and balloons and prayers and the kind of grief that does not fit inside any single moment. They held a vigil, right there in Southwest Atlanta. People who knew Zuri, people who knew her family, people who maybe did not know them at all but felt the weight of a 4-year-old's name being spoken in past tense. They all came. They lit candles. They released balloons into the sky. They said prayers out loud, together, for a little girl who deserved so much more time. Her mother, Jori, was there, standing in the middle of all of that grief, somehow still speaking, still finding words when she said herself that she had none. She told the camera, "It's hard just to wake up when you don't even feel like waking up." Read that again. It's hard just to wake up when you don't even feel like waking up. That is the sentence of a mother who lost her child and still has to open her eyes every morning and face a world where that child is no longer in it. That is not dramatic. That is not exaggerated. That is just the plain truth of what grief does to a person when the loss is this specific, this close, this permanent. Jori did not stop there. She talked about Zuri the way you talk about someone you are still not ready to use past tense for. She said her daughter was her firstborn, her only daughter, someone she saw every single day. She said, "Somebody that you see every single day is not with you. That ain't no easy task to conquer." No, it is not, and nobody should have to conquer it. Not like this, not because of this. But what Jori said next is the part that matters most for this channel, for this community, for anyone watching right now who might be sitting inside a situation that feels too familiar. She looked at the camera and she said, "This situation needs to be addressed, and maybe our story needs to be heard." She said that in the middle of her grief. She said that while she was still trying to figure out how to wake up in the morning. She chose, in that moment, to make Zuri's death mean something beyond the pain of it. She chose to speak so that somebody else might not have to go through what she was going through. That is strength. Real strength. Not the loud kind, the quiet, exhausted, "I have nothing left but I am still going to say," this kind. And she remembered Zuri the way every mama should get to remember their child. She talked about her humor, her brightness, the way she was, in her words, destined to be great. And then she said the thing that started this whole story, the thing that makes Zuri real, not just a name in a headline. You can tell her no, but at the end of the day, she going to be like, "Give me a hug, I want a hug." And then you just can't tell her no. That detail right there, that one specific, ordinary, beautiful detail about a 4-year-old girl who refused to take no for an answer when it came to love. That is Zuri. That is who she was. Not a case number, not a charge sheet, not a statistic. A little girl who wanted hugs, and she deserved every single one of them. There is a bigger question sitting underneath all of it, and it is the same question that sits underneath so many of the stories we tell on this channel. How does a child end up dead at the hands of the person who was supposed to love her most? Not in a theoretical way, not as a rhetorical question, as a real, urgent community question that deserves a real answer. Because Zuri did not die because of some random act of violence from a stranger. She did not die in a car accident, or from an illness, or from any of the other devastating ways that children are sometimes lost. She died inside a domestic dispute. She died because an argument between two adults escalated to a place where a 4-year-old's life became the casualty. She died because the cycle of unchecked anger and unaddressed conflict inside a home can reach out and touch people who have nothing to do with it. And in this case, it reached the smallest, most innocent person in the room. Let me tell you something. That is not just Rashad Dixon's failure. That is a failure that our communities have been living with for a long time. The failure to address what is happening behind certain doors before it gets to a point of no return. The failure to create enough space for people to say, "Something is wrong here. Someone needs help. This situation is getting dangerous." The failure to take seriously what domestic violence actually looks like before it becomes a headline. Because most of the time, there are signs. Most of the time, the story did not start on the day it ended. Most of the time, there were moments, maybe many moments, where something could have been different if someone had stepped in or spoken up or had somewhere to go or someone to call. We do not know all of those moments in Zuri's story. We may never know them, but we know the end. And the end is a 4-year-old girl who is gone, and a mother who has to learn how to wake up every morning and carry that. Jori said she hopes their story can help at least one person. One person. That is all she asked for in the middle of her grief. Not justice, though she deserves that too. Not answers, though she deserves those as well. Just the possibility that Zuri's story, told out loud, might reach one person who needed to hear it. So if you are that person, if you are sitting somewhere right now in a situation that feels like it is getting out of hand, like the arguments are getting louder and the line between anger and danger is getting thinner, please hear this. There are people who can help. There are places to go. There are options that exist before a situation reaches the point that Zuri's did. You do not have to wait until it is too late. And if you know someone in that situation, a sister, a friend, a neighbor, someone whose home does not feel safe for the children inside it, say something. Do something. Make the call. Because the worst thing that can happen when you speak up is that you were wrong. And the worst thing that can happen when you stay quiet is that a little girl who just wanted hugs never gets to give another one. Zuri Dixon was 4 years old. She was bright. She had a sense of humor. She was, in her mother's words, destined to be great. And she loved hard. The way only a child who has never been taught not to can love. Unconditionally, fully, with her whole little self. She deserved to grow up. She deserved to be told no and ask for a hug anyway, for the rest of her life. She deserved everything that was taken from her. Rest, baby girl.